Death times. The ultimate hardest challenge in the game at the moment. These times are pretty nerve-wracking for people, and they're actually tied to a really good challenge, not gonna lie. Even I had some trouble beating some of the ghosts, and I considered myself as a really good player. Anyways, I just wanted to make this dumb video on top 5 hardest death times. Also, remember that this is my personal list, and what I found difficult might not be hard for you at all, and vice versa. So, without further ado, let's head to the list. 5th hardest death time for me, deep sea driving. I actually really like this track, no joke, it's a fun track to drive on, beating these fan cycles is really fun at times. It's such a satisfying feeling when you try to go as fast as possible to outspeed them. The reason why I put this at number 5 is because I'm just dumb and I didn't have a really good strategy on doing the last tube section. At the time of doing this time trial, I knew about the new collision thing, and sooner that day, before trying these death times, I saw on Reddit how some guy just blasted through the last section, basically implying that there are no collisions now at all, which was a lie. Anyway, after finding out the proper way of doing this track, I didn't have too much trouble with it, hence why it's at number 5. I was trying to hug the corners as much as possible, but then I tried to go pretty wide in the center of the tube, and it turned out really well. I even got a new PB thanks to that. 4th hardest death time for me, turbo track. Okay, maybe you're confused why it's at number 4 and not higher on the list, but you'll soon get why. I've never really played this track that much, I've never time trialed it like some other tracks, and I must say I was really surprised on the death time. When I saw how he cut the corner here, I lost my shit. The main issue on this track is reserves. Although I never had any trouble with reserves prior to the Death Ghost being released, you have to cut the grass in order to beat him, which makes you lose a bunch of reserves. The U section with low reserves is so dumb to do. I always lose my speed there no matter what I do. I might have to change my lines entirely, just so that I can get an actually good time. Also, he messes up on lap 3 after the U-turns, he only takes the first boost pad and doesn't keep blue fire from it, so we have a nice opening to overtake him. He also doesn't cut this last corner on any of the 3 laps, so you should definitely go for it, you'll save some precious seconds of your time. 3rd hardest death time for me, Dragon Mines. So, the hardest track in the game, as people said in the past. People were saying stuff like, Oxide's impossible, it's unreal, I broke my controller, fuck this game, I hate it, how does he go so fast, and so on. Little did they know that there were even velo and death times coming in the future. Anyways, when I was making my tier list of my favorite tracks in Nitro-Fueled a few weeks or a month ago, I put Dragon Mines on the 2nd best tier. And I still really like this track, but for whatever reason, I just couldn't get good lines while doing the Death Ghost. I don't know why, but I just couldn't get into the shortcuts no matter what I did. I might have to completely relearn this shortcut, because it just doesn't want me to get there. Other than that, it was pretty easy honestly, but it took me a fair amount of attempts to get it down. I put it on number 3 as it took me a bit longer than I wanted it to take, and technically it wasn't as hard as the tracks higher on this list. Also, side note, I actually time trialed this track a lot prior to these attempts, so I was really familiar with the track, because I actually really like it, so I didn't think it would be hard, but it turns out it was hard because of the new collisions and stuff, but whatever. And speaking of time trials, you can also watch my newest PB on Dragon Mines as well, or pretty much any time trial that I've recorded in this playlist on the top right corner. 2nd hardest death time for me, Tiger Temple. This is a strange one. I don't really time trial this track as much, even though I kind of like it. It's a fairly good map overall, but the reason why I'm putting it on number 2 is the time it took me to beat this track, and this dumb grass cut I didn't learn yet. I mean, yeah, I can do it, but it's kind of slow and sloppy and I don't like it. Either way, this took me even more time to beat than the first level, I'll get to that in a second. The only issue with this track for me was the grass shortcut. While beating the Death Ghost, I would always take this wider line on the right on the 2nd and 3rd laps, as I didn't want to learn the shortcut at the very moment. Besides, I could catch up to the Ghost afterwards with better corner cutting. I retried this track many times before I got to beat the Death Ghost, but I managed to do it. And now, the hardest death time for me, Slide Coliseum. I started to hate this track now. Even though this track technically took me 2 attempts to beat, the amount of attempts prior to me actually trying to beat this ghost is awful. So, a little backstory. I didn't know the new update was live until like 3 hours into it being already live, and with my incredibly fast internet speed, I decided to watch some streamers play the new update. Ido Dashi, which is a great streamer by the way, was streaming his attempts on the death times, and at that point I realized that the death ghost beat my time by 5 seconds. Well, time for practicing. So I started practicing and holy shit, it took me so much time to get even close to the death ghost. Now, for some unknown reason, I didn't watch the world record for this track to see what lines to take, even though I do it most of the time when I try to go for better times or when I'm struggling with reserves. Why didn't I do it this time around? Don't ask me, I really don't know. Anyway, this track gave me the most frustration and the most practicing in order to finish it, hence why it's at number 1. Even though it took me less attempts than all of the other tracks on this list, it took me the most time playing it and practicing it. The biggest issue on this track for me was cutting good lines and at the same time having enough reserves to hold yellow fire, which was a challenging task to do. Honorable mentions would be Dingo Canyon and Meteor Gorge. Now, these tracks are like Turbo Track. I pretty much never time trial these tracks. I didn't try to go for the Dingo Canyon shortcut prior to this update because it was just so hard to do. But I feel like with the new collisions, they fixed it. And the most rage I got on Dingo Canyon was when I lost on lap 3 on the very last armadillo because I couldn't see it as I didn't have my glasses on at the time, and I fell off the track while the developer went straight past me. And Meteor Gorge, I've never liked this track in Nitro-Fueled. I liked it in Nitro cars because it reminded me of Polar Pass from CTR a lot, but I just don't like this track that much in Nitro-Fueled. I never time trial it at all. Okay, thanks for watching this useless video. What are some of your hardest death times? Let me know in the comments below. Also, I guess I could do some small tutorials on specific tracks if you like to, but I mean, it really comes down to taking good lines, utilizing U-turns to its full potential, getting yellow fire and secret fire as soon as possible, and managing reserves. This applies to every track in general. Well, anyways, see ya, I guess. Bye. Also, please check out my metal covers because they're not getting enough views and I want them to get more views. Okay, bye.